we got a weird video today. We got the law finally caught up, and every AAA is in a trouble. Double the trouble. Alright, let's see what the video is about. But first, YouTube, let me bring chat in here. I don't know where the fudge chat is. There we go. Where are we? Yeah, I was recording, so I had chat hidden.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a true bombshell for the games industry. This is one of those things that can have true impact, so let me explain. What just happened is the European Union just rewrote the rules on premium currency in games. Of course, that's the home of Ubisoft, of CD Projekt, of DICE, of Remedy, and so many other companies. And make no mistake, the new rules that they have just laid out could change gaming utterly. Actually change the games that you play.
Press X to doubt? Okay.
So you know those bundles where you've got to buy more currency than the item that you want costs? Or perhaps the idea of limited time events, of no refunds and digital purchases. These are all being fought against by legislators. And when the EU takes action, it's a large enough block that it can reverberate around the world. And as evidence, how's that USB-C charger on our phone working out? There's a lot to talk about. Strap in. This one actually, honestly, pretty f***ing good. Oddly enough, you've got EU legislation to thank for the standardized phone charger situation, and for many, the ability to play ROMs on their iPhone.
Honestly, the charger thing, hella based. But also, because of that, nowadays it's annoying because you have to buy your charger separately when you get your phone. But I guess that's just a small pet peeve of mine. Like, I think when it comes to like EU regulations, like me, I am someone from the EU, right? And I am more than happy that we have regulations and that they are doing this. However, do I think like that's going to impact gaming necessarily? I think people are too greedy and they make too much money. And the EU is not where they're making most of the money from. So I don't know if us doing this is going to just get us excluded from a lot of things as retaliation rather than people adjusting to meet our standards. Because in China, it's encouraged that you pay because by having options to pay, you feel good about the fact that you are working hard and you use your money to get advantage over people that aren't, right? And that's their mentality. That's something that's ingrained in them. So it's like, yeah, it's not ingrained here. It's not the standard here, but there it's accepted. Paying is accepted. And people have been bending the knee so much and just being like tolerant and accepting that now you pay for cheat codes. Before they used to be free. Like people are so used to paying that they're like, what is the EU doing? Why are they finally, cracking down on it? So I don't know if necessarily it will make a difference. But anyway, let's watch the video.
But now we seem to have EU legislation to thank for premium currency being threatened, so here's what went on. In September 2024, the EU proposed the Digital Fairness Act that was targeting all the practices online that make using digital services miserable, and in particular, it called out dark patterns in video games as one of the targets, and that's basically the gross manipulative techniques that trick and strong-arm money out of people, obviously, especially
quite a lot of them do it.
Who are not yet adults. And this is fairly weighty because in the EU alone, games are obviously big business. Revenues have been going up in the EU. Online game spending in 2018 represented 74% of turnover coming from online revenue and 83% by 2022. That's all of those fun, dark patterns actually working and getting digital currency money out of people.
You don't like paying $500 for skin? You don't like paying $40 to play a single player game 3 days in advance?
But those dark patterns target the most vulnerable people the most. And
yes, the most vulnerable, which, if I quote the internet, why should we care about idiots? Let them get scammed. End quote. I do not agree with that statement, just to clarify. I think it's a fucking dumb statement that people make, and we should care because you never know when it will end up biting you in the ass or your child. But hey.
There's no one more vulnerable in the eyes of the law than children. Children who spend an average of €31 a month on online games, according to data from Video Games Europe.
Seriously? What the fuck? Damn. Our children are living well, man. Like, I think my WoW subscription was what, $12 or $14? I think that was it. 12. I think it was 12. Yeah. Damn.
Well, that's actually went down from 2023.
I guess that's 40 euros.
Everyone's feeling a little bit of the economic pinch, but it's not stopped the EU from taking action to protect kids, basically, from predatory premium currency models. And in situations like this, there's often a great offender, right, that is held up as an example of something doing everything wrong. So
it's funny that they're showing the great offender Hoyo. They just keep going with like, dingle dangle, let me show you Hoyo, they're the bad guys. There are like so many more way worse predatory variants out there than Hoyo. Not that Hoyo's good, because again, I think they're one of the worst monetized gachas out there. They are worse than Hoyo, yes, but I still think Hoyo's pretty high up there.
You might wonder, is it an Activision game? Is it Ultimate Team from the EA football games? Maybe it was Roblox. No, today, it's a game about horses. It's called Star Stable.
Wait, what?
You've probably never heard of it.
I've never heard of it. If this all does
turn out good, we'll have the horse girls to thank. This is Star Stable Online. It comes from a Swedish developer called Star Stable Entertainment, and it is the game that may have just rewritten rules and monetization in the EU.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What? All of this because of a horse game?
So, yeah, thanks, horse girls. Now, it turns out that Star Stable just uses all of the premium currency tactics in the book, which makes it a pretty awesome example, right? Especially because it is targeted at a younger audience. So in March 24, the Swedish Consumer Agency filed a complaint with...
You know what the actual problem is? The fact that it's made by Sweden. It's not even all the predatory shit. It's the fact that Sweden's the one that's profiting off of it. Oh, man. Kind of funny that a horse game's the reason for this.
The EU-wide Consumer Protection Cooperation Network. That's a mouthful. And that complaint alleged that Star Stable Entertainment were targeting children and using harmful commercial practices that breached EU consumer regulations. Now, the findings corroborated much of those allegations. They found that the game made direct appeals to children in their ads, that they were using pressuring techniques like FOMO, which is particularly despicable when it's not, on adults, and there was a...
What do you mean it's particularly despicable when it's not on adults? It's despicable, period, bro. See, this is the freaking reason why we have so much FOMO and why people are fucking giving in to FOMO and why everyone's so far up their ass that they don't care about FOMO. Because people are like, nah, it's only about the kids, only the kids. Fear of missing out is what FOMO is. And it's something that is so predatory and so ingrained in every single release, in every single game, in every single thing, that people just accept it. Most people will fall to it and peer pressure because you have a game and someone starts it early and you don't want to miss out and you don't want to get spoiled. So you want to start early. So you cave in and give up because you have friends or because you spend time online. It's like, that's why people get away with selling you games early. That's why people get away with telling you that they're gonna take your toy away. We have limited products in fucking fast food, man. So that they sell you more because you're gonna miss out. You better get your limited product. that it is so hard to make. Don't miss out. Ah, man. You have limited time events and I fucking hate it, man. People are like, nah, FOMO is only bad for kids.
Lack of transparency on purchases, and loads more things. I mean, here's an example of one that's particularly rough. They were responsible for influencers promoting the game to kids without any disclosure of the spending risk. So, in short, it's bloody well damning. Star Stable Entertainment now have a month to address complaints and propose solutions with their game.
Yeah, make sure you don't miss out before Paws dies. Oh wait, she's a vampire. Don't stake me to the heart, chat. Thank you so much, Mercenary, for the biddies. Okay, so the whole reason was because people were promoting it to kids without disclosing the chance to get to spend. Interesting.
Game, but what matters for our purposes today is the Consumer Protection Cooperation Network, we can just call the CPCN. They have laid out what they want. So I'll spell it out via an example. This is what should happen in the ideal world. You, dear gamer, want to buy yourself a new horse. You see that your new horse costs 300 star coins. The store tells you that's around £5, so it just lets you buy 300 coins exactly. You buy exactly what you need for the horse, rather than the current bundles that exist of 200 coins or 400 coins, meaning that you always have to buy with some wastage, which just ends up giving the company more money. So in short, no obfuscation bullshit, no weird tactics. And worst of all for these companies, this will have them bloody well shaking. You'd have to have a refund policy, both for the coins and the horse. And none of this would be pitched as a limited time event where you have got to get the thing right now. So that's an example then of how these...
The biggest impact is the fact that it can't be a limited time event, but also the fact that they let you refund the skin. That is huge for so many things. Damn, son. That is actually huge. Wow. They will find ways again for it, but like the fact that you can refund a digital product to get your coins back to spend it on something else if you don't like how it looks is insane, because right now the way it works is if it doesn't look good on your character, because a lot of them don't give you previews, right? If it doesn't work well on your character, you can't refund it and you just get shafted out of the money and you feel bad.
Policies should be applied, and each is indeed a massive win for consumers. But that would not matter if this amounted to nothing. You could look at all this and think, right, so some Swedish horse game has got a slap on the wrist. No, it's more than that. This seems to have backbone. So here's the big important bit. These solutions are the backbone of what the European Consumer Organization calls key principles for trustworthy gaming environments. And these could cause huge problems for anyone who is using premium currency. When I say this could shake the foundations of the game industry economy, I absolutely mean it. So these, which I'm going to spell out for you, are the minimum requirements for purchasing and using virtual currencies in the EU.
Okay.
And what's neat is the philosophy behind them. So the CPCN considers these premium currencies as an equivalent to the real money that is used to purchase them. And that for them means that they are just as worthy of legal scrutiny. So you can see how that is, in a way, a mindset shift that paves the way for
that is good,
actually treating these as they are. So just think about the last game that you played that had a premium currency in it. Whatever that game is, I want you to keep it in mind. And with that in your mind, I'm now going to go through the various different practices that this targets. So, prices for premium currency packs that are a little more than the available product. So you've got to buy extra coins, extra gems, whatever it may be. Obfuscation of how much currency is worth by always pairing currency with other items or multiple currency options.
What? Okay. That is an interesting one to tackle for them.
As an example, I think World of Warcraft may actually fall for that because it includes Trader's Tender in one of the new mount bundles. Another one, a complete lack of a refund option for making currency purchases or even for in-game items. So there would have to be a refund policy. That's something none of us are used to in these games.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, as soon as you have as you get something digitally, you can't refund it. If it has like in-game currency or something, you also void the right to refund the game itself. Like a lot of them are like that. They include virtual currency in their deluxe edition, so you can't refund the entire game because of that. So they trap you into it. It's like a lot of games have this mentality where you have the game, the base game, but if you order the deluxe, you get to play it early, right? So you have that FOMO. But then let's say you don't care about playing it early. But if you don't order the deluxe, you don't get like the pre-order bonus, the special pre-order bonus for ordering it. So you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss out forever on that. So that kind of might get you. And then if that doesn't get you, you get like a really sweet deal of extra currency that you can spend on stuff that's way more. And it's kind of like, it's practically free. Hashtag gamer math, I don't know. And then one of them might be what makes you fall for it. And then you purchase the deluxe and it says that you can no longer refund the entire game because you have in-game currency now. So they catch you one way or another. There are so many layers to this of how much people are doing it. And for me, right, the worst offending thing of it all is having worked in the industry, you know just how much the game is changed and built around these practices. It's no longer about just building the game. It's about building the game, keeping in mind monetization, keeping in mind that you want people to spend. And it is just like, it's so vicious just how much it ramps up and it snowballs.
Also, FOMO practices to encourage buying, those are going to be looked at, so some of those may no longer be allowed. And all of these practices are now something that the EU can hold against developers and publishers, even more so if the parental controls of said game are not up to scratch. So it's less a case of me saying, can you think of any game that falls into those categories? And it's more me saying, can you think of a game that doesn't fall into those criteria?
Yes.
It's fairly
a lot of it,
which might
a lot of
the
it
point here. We know this
games
is something the EU have been thinking about in other circumstances than just Star Stable. As an example, in September 2024, the European Consumer Organization published a report on popular online games, and in that report, they targeted Diablo 4, EA Sports FC 24, Minecraft, Fortnite, and a bunch of others, and it was all about how the virtual currencies work. They were not thrilled on what they found in those games, right? Because many of them, well, they did the same things that, Star Stable did that we do not like. And that straight up means we can say that Electronic Arts and Blizzard Entertainment are being directly targeted by this body. That really is something. So it's no wonder that the BEUC will be holding workshops to help European companies implement these new principles. Because it seems...
yeah, holding workshops. Yeah, that's what we need, workshops, totally.
They may actually have to implement them. Everything that they
Minecraft was bought by Microsoft,
previously thought was acceptable.
Like, it's a can of worms, what they did with Minecraft. I remember buying Minecraft for $5 and owning the entire product and having access to mods and modding it in Java version. And now they say they sell you a shell or husk of Minecraft that you can't even mod. And if you fell for it, well, congratulations. You're going to be an idiot because you gotta pay again if you want the other version that you can mod. Like, we have Bedrock Edition that they sell as their main product. And it's very hard to find the Java edition because they make it hard so that you can fall in the pitfall of it. And you have mine coins, and it's a mess. Ever since Microsoft got a hand of Minecraft, it's so fucking sad. Also, hi Jen. I was confused when I saw the Riot Shop. Yeah, we're watching a video on monetization. EU is cracking down on it, which is very good. But I fear that they will end up just excluding us from a lot of things.
Pretty much now isn't. And here's the shocking thing. That's not my commentary. That is what the industry response has been. So we know they are.
Definitely Netherlands is getting excluded from a lot of stuff due to the gambling laws. Exactly. Like that's my fear. Because like I know that a lot of people, like when we were playing Lost Ark, a lot of people couldn't play it because they were from countries that have gambling laws. And they're like, well, you just can't play it. And it really, really sucks.
They are shaking in their boots. It ain't surprising the industry bodies aren't thrilled about this, and a big shout out to one of our Games members, Neo Nebulosa, for directing us to this stuff. So, the European Game Developers Federation and the Video Games Europe, or two groups basically, they've published a joint statement that expresses their disappointment with the findings. Let's read their statement. Quote, "We are disappointed by the lack of engagement from the CPC network in creating these principles, which introduce new legal theories and misguided interpretations of EU consumer law that will create confusion and disruption for European customers." Sidebar. Oh no, we're going to be disrupted by sort of annoying predatory stuff going away. What an awful disruption. To the statement. It will also present a challenge to the industry's future growth and deprive millions of consumers access to their favorite games.
See, they're already threatening us with just limiting our access. It's great. Like putting the fear into people and weaponizing that and dangling it as a way to like go like, don't do that, you're gonna pay.
Now that last bit is the interesting thing. So understandably, right, these groups, representing the most powerful players in the industry, did quite like things the way that they were. Change is dangerous, especially to the bottom line, and especially change like this. But in a way, they're not inherently wrong. It is true that audiences do actually understand premium currencies by and large right now, and when implementing currencies, these companies were following, their best legal guidance, and now that guidance has changed. I guess just like how so many phones had like a bespoke charging cable until the rules just changed in the middle of the game. So now they've got to get used to these new rules. And what'll sting is the impact on their bottom line. They're not wrong about the potential impacts of all of this. Now, big companies like Ubisoft can probably absorb the costs of any legal challenges.
with the drama going on? Poor Ubisoft's like, bro, we're already hit by a bunch of problems. We can't afford that.
Or damage from rebuilding their premium currency systems. They'll probably spend a whole lot to try and figure out ways around these principles. As for smaller companies, well, they may not find that so easy. But where things will be dramatic is the group's final warning, because it's the most threatening one. It's the idea that players in the EU may just be locked out of video games. They'd say with a game like Overwatch, right? That they would simply choose to geo-restrict access to the game rather than change their monetization model or to just continue the game as
That's
normal
my
and
fear.
risk EU lawsuits. It could just be they look at the EU and think, you know what? We make enough from the States and other countries. We really don't need them. That being said, the EU population is kind of huge.
It's not that huge, man. 5% of the world population. Kind of huge. Yes, that's what I tell myself too when someone looks at my e-penis and says it's small. I'm like, it's kind of huge. I snort copium too. You're what? My e-penis. That's the biggest. That's the biggest of them all.
Overall GDP is obviously a very, very flawed metric, but as an example, right, just Googling this here in 2024, the EU's nominal GDP was about 17.9 trillion and 1/6 of global nominal GDP, which is quite a lot of money and a hell of a lot of that GDP.
It is a lot of money, but the question is how much of that money goes into the actual gaming sector? Because when it comes to money, right? Europe doesn't have as much disposable income. It doesn't have a lot of spending money. Like we have money, it just goes into bills and living. And generally speaking, not a lot of people can afford to spend a lot on games. So they don't.
GDP globally will be in other countries like, say, China, where a lot of these companies will not be able to go in and directly monetize. That could actually mean that they will feel the need to change. And in a way, there are two wolves inside me who are fighting, right? I suppose one of them is the pragmatic wolf. The other one is the almost like the last vestiges of some sort of libertarian idealism that says, let the market decide. If the gamers do not like the bad practices, the gamers shall not partake in them. And
I don't agree with that, because from all I've observed, and again, sorry if I am being an asshole and you don't like my opinion. Well, I'm not sorry if you don't like my opinion. I'm sorry if you think I'm very harsh. Gamers are fucking dumb, man. People will let themselves be exploited just so they can feel an ounce of happiness for 1 second. So they can get a bit of a dopamine and to feel slightly good because they have some pixels now and their favorite fucking character is now on their screen. To get overhauled and destroyed 2 patches later because some bigger overpowered character will get sold in, you know? But, you know, they're like huffing and puffing and going like, but my waifu is so powerful right now. I can look at her boobs jiggle and her ass dingle as I purchase her and then keep her in my storage forever, ever, and ever. I'm sorry, man. I know I'm radical when it comes to it because I don't like MTX in games even. I think MTXs are fucking annoying and I think they ruin the idea of games, and I think people design worse and shittier looking clothes for people just because they can sell the better looking ones. So like I hate the entire way it changes how people act towards games. And then how much people are like, they gotta dab on you for having more money and more spending power. Like, I hate that. I hate that mentality. So I am really... I don't mind if you spend your money because at the end of the day, it's your money, right? Like, do whatever the fuck you want. You can burn it. You can literally take all your money, put it in a barrel, put some gasoline on and fucking just burn your money away, right? It's your money. I couldn't care any less. But I hate the fact that because of how people spend their money recklessly, not giving a flying fuck about what's happening and how the practices are shaping the industry, we're getting worse and worse practices and worse development and worse design as a result. That is my problem. It's the fact that the way the money is being spent encourages worse practices.
And the market will solve the problem. And I wish that was true, but I feel there's almost a faux idealism in so much of that, because these psychological hooks, these psychological triggers, they do actually work. We're in a world where you can very easily make, I think, some sound enough, philosophical arguments very much against regulation and all of that. And I totally get that. I'm fairly sympathetic towards that in many cases. But the thing is, we've also got to be pragmatic. And a part of that is being a bit humble about the human condition. And the fact of the matter is, these practices are not popular. People do not like them.
People don't like them, but they partake in it.
Continue. And these obviously are bad. And as people who enjoy video games, we see that as these types of practices derive more and more revenue, they then become what the companies focus on.
Yep.
And that is worse for the actual video games. Because I suppose in a way, how much of game industry revenue comes essentially from psychological manipulation?
Like, you have to consider, I've worked in the industry and I've been told that the content that's available in the game is not going to be put in the game and it will be added as a day one patch. You're being delivered a worse fucking product just so that they can manipulate you and give you fixes so that they can then go and tell you that, look at us, we did a good job, we're so active and proactive, and were like listening to feedback that they already had from their QA, feedback that they chose to ignore, feedback that they're sitting on, and just the patch is there, they're just waiting to release it. Why wasn't it in the game from the beginning? Because it makes less money, because it doesn't give good faith. It's manipulation, and it happens. And like, I can't tell you what company did it, but I can tell you that from working in the industry and with multiple companies, it happens in multiple companies. And you can also observe it from the outside in a lot of situations. But hey,
and these various business strategies,
manipulation, gotta love it.
Revenue in a way that's not like really tied to the experience of a game that you purchase. We've just seen the share of that increase and increase and increase, and it's no wonder that as that is increased, the rest of us have become less and less satisfied with games. So in a way, if this does hurt the revenue of a bunch of companies and unfortunately leads to a bunch of job losses because these types of practices are no longer viable, good riddance. Good riddance, absolutely. Let the companies fail, let those jobs go down. How we run things should be a dialogue between the private and public sectors, and in a case like this, I think it's an example of the public sector, right? The people essentially saying, we actually do not like this practice. We don't want this to be the rules of the game. We want the rules of the game to change, to be more...
Honestly, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that we should care less about the people that are working in the industry and more about protecting everyone from this, because the people that are working in the industry, right, they don't have a say whether or not they get to hold back the content. They don't have a say whether or not the thing that they design gets sold for money or it gets added to the base game, right? They're there doing the bidding of whoever decides that. And it sucks for them as well. It's not like they can change their job necessarily. A lot of people can't afford that. And it sucks the fact that their jobs are being dangled on performance if the game performs well enough, right? You've seen that plenty of times now with games going like, this game, we're going to shut down the studio if it doesn't do well enough. It didn't meet the expectations. What do you mean? It made a fortune. Nah, it didn't meet expectations of money. The people are asking ridiculous amounts of money nowadays for us to secure the jobs of the people that are working there on top. It's like, bro, what? I've had people literally tell me that they're buying the game because they want to support the devs. And they feel like if they don't buy the game, their franchise is not going to get another game after. Like, we've reached a point where people are they're so manipulated that they don't even see the fact that what they're doing is not okay. Like, you're buying something that you don't want because someone is holding your franchise hostage. Like, the game's awful. Why are you supporting that?
More robust. And the market will, once it adapts to that, find a solution. And if the new rule set is a better rule set, then that should be a net good. But of course, none of this will matter if there's no enforcement. Because one country making a digital consumer policy often will find difficulty in enforcing it because you're just one little guy.
Like Netherlands.
Mr. Belgium, right? That's why even though Belgium has banned loot boxes, so many games simply just ignore that and still operate in the country. Like in World of Warcraft in the new raid, one of the bosses is basically a slot machine boss. We always have the joke that for the person in our team that's in Belgium, that boss just can't drop any loot. I don't know, there's an EU firewall or a Belgian firewall. That's a joke, but you get the point. As much as many people have kind of went, Belgium, you, take him down. It hasn't really mattered because it's just Belgium, just one little guy. It's a bit different here, though. And that's because the EU is, 26 other countries, and also Belgium. In 2023, it was worth 25.7 billion euro in game revenues. That's a lot of revenues. And we know that the legislators are willing to take on the likes of Apple and Google when their rulings are being defied. They have done.
They are. However, what results in that is a lot of times they just get fined. I feel like our fines are also not big enough for them to give a fuck half the time.
done that.
But that's
But more
another
than
discussion.
The companies inside the EU are, part of a big global network, and that does mean that whenever USB-C cables become standardized in the EU, they then become standardized everywhere because of manufacturing limitations. I'm sure Apple would have loved to have continued just selling people lightning adapters in the States, but ultimately they seem to have saw the way the wind was blowing and made the big change to USB-C. No one wanted to have, of course, a whole factory just making EU-only phones. And again, thinking about the impact that would have had on the whole ecosystem of manufacturing partners, blah, blah, blah. So you can see how with hardware, it does kind of make sense. We can see, though, software examples where it's not really the same thing. It's not like you can just go and get an emulator for your iPhone in America, but you can in the EU. So the question then is, will developers want to risk losing a large slice of that EU-derived money? Or will they simply have to ship a cut-down and less exploitative version of their in-game monetization to European countries?
Because I think some might just
them in a fun little
not care about EU.
The American gamer may get a transparently worse deal than, say, the European gamer. And then you can say, well, compare your store to mine. My one is a bit more respectful, doesn't have as much FOMO, doesn't have as many tricksy bundles and things that basically feel like a scam. And that'll be a bad look. That's the...
Will it though? What if they just don't sell you the things and then you're just looking at other people that have skins and stuff and you're just gonna make accounts over on the US side instead so that you can benefit from the skins? That's like, what if you're gonna make someone feel bad? Why would they refuse to make money? Because they would make more if they refused to make money. How should I put it? They like, for example, when it comes to gambling stuff, instead of disclosing the percentages to like allow it, like gambling is just banned in certain countries. They just don't release the game there because they make more money gambling. And they might make more money with this predatory system from the US than they do from EU people. So they might keep their predatory system and exploit the ones that can be exploited instead of removing that. It's a matter of how much money they make. And it's hard for me to judge because I don't have the numbers, right? We don't have the numbers to be able to tell. But it might be more worthwhile to keep exploiting the people in the US and just go, fuck you, EU.
The dilemma that these companies face, and in a way, it's all thanks to a game about horses.
Freaking horses, man. That's crazy.
Girls. I guess that's a thing. Okay.
That is a thing. There is even an anime I want to watch about horse girls. But, that's a topic for another time. This was a cool video. And I'm kind of like looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I am skeptic. Sorry, I am a somewhat pessimistic person when it comes to this topic in particular. But I do hope that we end up having better systems and that it changes at least a couple of things that are getting rampant and way out of line. Fingers crossed.
Tell you what, though, if you want another story, another big, grand, juicy story, check out this one. It also hits the EU, but it also hits corporate melodrama, which is honestly some of my favorites.
Oh shit, Ubisoft, let's go. Damn, thank you so much for the 2 decades. I appreciate the Prime. That was a cool video. Anyway, YouTube, if you managed to make it up till the end, thank you so much, and I shall see you in the next video. Type horses if you have nothing to type in the comment section, and like and comment and subscribe because it helps the algorithm and it helps the channel, and I appreciate you. Bye!